Hey folks, it's Leah. Thanks for joining me today. I'm making a rainbow soap, so I thought I would show you how I mix up the various colors for that soap. Because there's going to be 6 different colors. I have my 6 containers here, but then also I want to put a little bit of titanium dioxide into each of the layers so that it's a little bit more opaque. I'm also kind of going for like a more pastel rainbow today, so it'll help with that as well because it'll give it a little bit extra whitening power. And so the colors that I'm using today are the sort of standard rainbow colors. I'm going to start, the bottom layer is going to be purple and it's going to go all the way up to pink. So it's going to go purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, pink. So basically these are the 6 bins that I'm going to put my color in, and I'll mix them with a bit of olive oil because we're using mica today, which mixes best with olive oil. And then I will use a little bit of water to mix up the titanium dioxide, as our titanium dioxide is water soluble. I'm going to start out with my titanium dioxide, which we got this from Windy Point, which is in Calgary, I believe. And so I'm just going to put, I mean, I'm estimating how much I'm going to want in each one, but I'm going to try about a ½ tablespoon in this cup. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to water it down and then put about like a ½ teaspoon of that liquid in each layer. And I will, in theory, if my math was correct, I will in theory have a little bit more than a ½ teaspoon for each layer, just in case there's like a layer that, you know, needs a little extra to get pastel. So I've laid these out sort of, these are my cool colors. I'll start there. And I'm just thinking that, for example, this lime green mojito mica from Candora is actually quite a bit lighter than these two, which are from Suds and Scents. And so I just think I'm gonna need less mica here than in these ones, for example. So I'm doing a little bit extra so that if I need to, I can put an extra ½ teaspoon or whatever I have to. So that's my TD, which is gonna have some water put into it. And then I'm gonna be using about a ½ teaspoon for each of the different colors that we're using, because I want them to be pretty vibrant, but also like they are gonna be made pastel sort of. So, you know, how do I explain it? It needs to have lots of color power because otherwise it'll just not look very good. It'll look like really washed out because I am putting the extra white in. So I've got my, these teaspoons are so old. We've got just sort of a mishmash of teaspoons. But I'm going to put my, this is Magic Violet Mica. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see. Magic Violet Mica from Suds and Scents, and that's in, I think, Abbotsford in BC. They are such lovely people. I cannot recommend them enough. We've had this wonderful experience with them where, so our soap cutter, you may have noticed in some of our videos in 2020, I've got a hole in this bag. Oh dear. Okay. But our soap cutter was pretty janky in some of them. And the reason is because we got the soap cutter and then just like a couple of months after we got it, we'd only used it like maybe 3 or 4 times. And the thing that lets you tighten the wire broke. And so we had this really like loose wobbly wire, and so it was really hard to cut soap. And so finally it completely went on us in, I guess, the fall. And so I wrote to them and I said, hey, like we've only had this since like maybe February and it's already completely not usable. Like, what do we do, you know? And they sent us a replacement part for no fee or anything. And I was able to install that in like 3 minutes, and it's just like new. So they've been just super great. And I love to, you know, shout out sort of small businesses when I can. So definitely if you're looking for really nice micas, or if you even want a soap cutter like the one that we got, they've got some really great stuff. So definitely check them out. And they have just amazing customer service. Okay, so this is also from Suds and Scents. It's called Blue Peacock Mica. Whoop! I'll show you a little closer what that looks like. So I like to sort of start with, this is sort of, I think, the most like primary blue we have. So I'm gonna start there, and then I'm gonna add titanium dioxide until I'm happy with the shade that we're working with. So next we've got our lime green mojito. Now this is from Candora. Candora is located in Ontario, where we are, and so we get tons of stuff from them. They have lots of really good stuff. The micas are pretty good, and if we just need like a quick restock of something, often we do go through Candora, just because like they're so much closer and like the shipping's really fast that way and everything. So definitely worth checking out if you're in Ontario. So I've done my cool colors, and I've made a sufficient mess over here as well. And so now we're gonna move on to our warm colors. I've got a yellow here, I've got an orange, and I've got a pinkish color. So the yellow color here, this is yellow canary, and yellow canary is a fascinating mica because yellow canary actually morphs. And so the first time I used it, I was real freaked out because I wanted something that was like very clearly yellow, and it transformed into basically school bus yellow. And school bus yellow and actual yellow are quite different. School bus yellow is more of an orange, and so it was actually kind of the color of the orange that I'm using today. So it was more like this color by the time I had been pouring the soap into the mold. So you can see that's quite a change. And so the yellow canary gave me like a little minor heart attack the first time I used it, and then ever since, I just have to sort of remind myself, okay, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay, because it is actually a really, really great mica. It just gives you a little freak out in the in-between. So it's gonna morph to like an orange color, and then it's gonna morph back. So that's just part of the deal with this particular mica. The magic orange mica is gonna be for the orange layer. And initially, it may pretty much seem like this is the exact same color that is going on top of the yellow below. So when I mix it up, it might be like putting almost identical colors on top of each other. But I promise the yellow goes back. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. Then there's the pink honeysuckle. I just love this one. This is a really, really pretty color. It doesn't, so the pink that it is here is quite a lot deeper than the pink in the final soap, I find. So I would actually say, yeah, that it's more of a like almost like a rosy cotton candy pink. So it's a little bit different, but it's a really pretty pink anyway. We're all done measuring out our micas. The only thing left to do is to mix in a little bit of oil into the micas and a little bit of water into the titanium dioxide. I've got my, I've actually wiped down my surface a little bit because I made such a mess. But I've got my little mini mixer, and I use this all the time to mix up colors. And I've got my little squeezies that are, there's one for olive oil and there's one for distilled water. So you always want to use distilled water in soap because the minerals can sort of muck up your soap otherwise in like tap water. So I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of water into the titanium dioxide. I normally don't measure, but because I'm kind of planning to use a set amount, like a half teaspoon into each little tub, each color tub, I think it's important to have an idea how much I'm putting in. So I'm just gonna sort of stir it without turning on the mixer for a sec so it doesn't splash everywhere or like poof everywhere. And then I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a mix. Okay, great. So that is, I think, pretty mixed up. Yeah, looks pretty good. And now that's finished, I can move on to the olive oil. So the olive oil is going to go into the various colors. I usually just give a squeeze. you know, you don't have to worry too much about how much. I just kind of go by, is it enough? No, add some more. So I give it a solid squeeze to begin with. And then if I don't feel that it's, you see, I already feel like this is not enough for this one. I just add a little bit more. And then usually it's fine. So my purple one is, I'm also really, if you caught the bloopers video that we did at the end of 2020, it is kind of a habit of mine to poof colorants everywhere.
And I'm going to use my trusty bucket of pre-mixed oils today. This is a mixture of our exact ratio of oils that we use for soap making in a big quantity, so I can just measure some out and it'll be already in the right ratio of the oils that we use. Now it's time to add the lye water solution to the oils. This is how you make soap. I'll stick blend that only until it's emulsified, because I don't want to over mix it, because I want lots of time with the soap. I'm gonna have to split it off into 6 different layers, so if I over mix it, then it's gonna be solid by the time I get to the last layers. So here I'm at a very, very thin trace, and I'm measuring an identical bowl. I did this also in the Haven't the Foggiest soap video, if you want to check that one out. It just helps me to weigh the batter so that I know how much to pour off for each layer. I'll add a little bit of titanium dioxide to my first layer, which is the purple, and then of course I'll mix in the purple mica. Now this soap is totally unscented, but if we were adding scent, we would be adding it now. I always stick blend my color layer before I add more titanium dioxide, because as you can see, it does lighten it when you stick blend it. It helps me get a better idea of whether it needs more or not. I'm happy with this color, so I'm going to pour it into the bottom of my mold, which has already been lined with freezer paper. And then we repeat for the next layer. I add my titanium dioxide and my blue mica. First I mix the color in by hand so that I don't have to stick blend it too much, so it doesn't get too thick. And I can already tell pretty early on that I feel like I need a little bit more of the titanium dioxide to make it a lighter blue. I'm happy with this color. Now I spritzed the purple layer with rubbing alcohol. However, I did not spritz it at first when I had poured it into the mold. This is something I normally do. I just completely forgot to do it. And because I forgot to do it, I actually, you'll see in the cut part, I had some trouble with the bottom layer being kind of wonky. Now it's time for the green layer. There's already titanium dioxide in this mica, so I don't add more. I'm not happy with how bright the green is, so I add a little bit extra mica and then I stick blend it, and then I'm pretty happy with how saturated the color is. I'll spritz the top of the blue layer with rubbing alcohol, This is the second spritzing it's getting, so of course this layer works out much better for me. The rubbing alcohol just before pouring is so that the two layers stick together well. Sometimes you can have layers separating from each other, and that's because they've set up so much that they don't want to stick to one another. So putting a little rubbing alcohol will help with that. Here I've got my yellow layer. Now brace yourself for a massive color change. This soap just goes right to a dark burnt orange, and it's kind of alarming if you're not used to it, but of course because I've worked a lot with this mica, it's just par for the course. I'm not too concerned, but you'll see this is a bona fide orange layer that I'm pouring right now that will eventually turn back into a really lovely kind of lemon yellow color. I tap it down to smooth it out. It helps me get some bubbles out, and you can see just how close these two colors are. One is supposed to be yellow and one's supposed to be orange, but they are both pretty orange. My batter is getting pretty stiff by now, so I just take a spoon and give it a stir before I pour off the next layer. I think I'm gonna make it okay. It's fine, I'm not too worried, but if I ever do have it really thickening up like that, it's helpful to break it up a bit with a spoon before I pour it. Now it's time for the orange layer, which is literally less orange than the yellow layer. So we're going to pour that on top of the very orange yellow layer, and then we're going to smooth it out the best we can, give it a bit of a tap, and then we're going to do our very last layer, which is the pink layer. Nothing too exciting happening with the pink layer, except that I did decide I wanted it a little bit more concentrated, so I did end up adding a little bit extra mica, and then I added some titanium dioxide to make sure that it was kind of a delicate pastel pink. I'm really pleased with the color that I ended up with. It's a pretty color. I really enjoy the honeysuckle pink mica, and just adding a little bit of white made it more of a pastel version of that, and I was really pleased with how it turned out. And since that's our last layer, we're going to try our best to smooth the top. We'll give it a little thump to make sure that it is as smooth as possible. And I put a lid on it to make sure that it would gel, because I wanted to make sure it would be super duper bright. The next morning, you can see we have rainbow soap, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's kind of pastel as opposed to primary the way that I did it last time, but I am really happy with how it turned out, and it's pretty much exactly what I was going for. You can see the bottom layer on some bars is a little bit weird, and that's because I forgot to spray it with the rubbing alcohol when I first poured it, and I find that the rubbing alcohol helps it to kind of crust up. And because I didn't do that right away, it didn't really have time to crust up, and so the blue kind of fell into the purple layer a little bit. Not all the bars are ruined. We do have some kind of uglier bars, not as polished looking, but we'll just make sure that we sell those at a discount or what have you. This soap and the other products that we're launching for February are available now at tubbytabby.com. You can grab them as we speak. I want to thank you so much for watching today, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Be sure to subscribe for more content like this in the future. Thanks for joining us today.